everyone. Welcome to Dreadnought Mondays. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for taking the time to tune in. Today we are joined by Robin Johnson, aka Robin the Heart Whisperer. Robin, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for going back and forth on all the scheduling and everything you got going on, and thank you for taking time out to be on the show. Please give us an introduction of who you are and what you do for those that don't know you.
Great, thank you. Well, this is my pleasure. So thank you so much, Kenny, for inviting me to be here on your platform. And as he said, my name's Robin. I am married, and my husband Andrew and I have been married for 32 years, and we have 4 kids. So we love our family life, but I also love business life. So I'm a little bit of an entrepreneur. I have a business called The Heart Whisperer. That is me, where I help people heal their heart and strengthen their heart connection and learn to trust their heart again. And as part of that, I do private sessions, coaching, retreats, all of that, whatever platform people are most comfortable with. And I also am an owner in the Wholeness Network. And that's a platform, an online platform to help give people resources to just work through the challenges of life. Just what your whole podcast is doing, trying to help people get by and give them positivity and good resources to help along the way.
Awesome, I love that. Let's jump right in here. How has business been since COVID hit for you?
Business has been a little bit crazy. On top of, I actually didn't mention, I had another business called Serena Wholeness, and it was a beautiful building that we leased space for practitioners to come and classrooms to be taught. And my business partner died right as COVID started, and it was very sudden, and so that has been tricky. Without COVID, I probably could have hung on to that business, but between losing her and COVID, I couldn't hold on to that business, and so it's been challenging to unravel and close that one business. That was difficult, but then a lot of the rest of what I do has just been more online, so it's beautiful. I've been able to help people far beyond my own proximity and reach out in ways that I haven't done before. I've got online classes that I've created to help people with the heart. So you just have to keep going and just be inventive about new solutions when something like this hits.
Exactly. And sorry to hear one about your business that you had to shut down, and then more so about the business partner that passed away. So sorry about
Thank you. Thank you.
What is your process, or well, let's first start with, what's one of the main things you help people with starting reconnecting with their heart? Is there like a main or a more common focus when it comes to reconnecting with and retrusting their heart?
That's a great way to phrase that question, because I think a lot of times the reason people disconnect from their heart is usually because of pain. Something has happened in their life that's very painful, whether it's divorce or death or an accident or some trauma, that they just cannot process all the emotions for. And we're rarely taught how to deal with all of that emotion. That's really hard in those difficult situations. And so the quickest solution and the easiest solution is just to shut the heart down. If we kind of disconnect from our heart, then we think we are not feeling that pain anymore, and it feels better. And that's definitely a short-term solution that works. But a long-term, we do need our heart connection, and life is more rich and more full without heart connection. And so we start first by dealing with that pain, helping people process the pain, go back to those memories, sort through things, and safely release that emotion so they're no longer afraid to connect into the heart.
Thank you. Sort of help them have a closure, so to speak.
Yeah.
Circumstances, correct?
Yes. In fact, you're probably much better at electricity than I am, Kenny. So you can correct me if I use any of the wrong terms. But if you think of like an electric panel in our house, how that is wired into our home to save us, because if we had a socket in our house that had too many things plugged into it, if it was drawing too much power in any one source of the house, then it could create an electrical fire. It could start the house on fire because there's just too much energy there. And so we have this fabulous breaker switch somewhere in the house that will shut it off. And we can go around and unplug, some of those things that are causing that draw on it. And then when it's safe, we can flip that breaker switch back on again. And that's kind of what we're talking about. The heart also has that automatic switch off valve that helps us in the moment. But for us to be able to go back and turn that heart connection back on, we've got to unplug some of that pain and reallocate, those resources. So it's a process, but it's possible. And that's one of the things I hope people hear in my messaging and what I share. It is possible for sure to get through that pain and beyond it.
Oh, absolutely. And I love the analogy used with the panel, electrical panel at home, and the breakers and the plugs. And I think it's fitting here. We're recording, towards the end of November, and just from what I've heard and everything, Christmas time is the most common time to have house fires because plugs are overloaded from decorations and cooking appliances and things like that. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But the timing is right for this conversation, I think. And then to, like you said, to continue on with that, you have to unplug some of that pain or release some of that pain or that load. And I think that kind of ties into here we are approaching the new year, and people have the resolutions and stuff, and a lot of those are financial or fitness is like the two most common goals we have, which associate a lot of pain. I set this goal and I didn't hit it and I was disappointed, or I had these goals and because of those goals I overworked myself or whatever, So
yeah.
a lot of pain things. So I think it's perfect timing that we can hopefully help people with that on how to avoid that if possible and how to properly process it if necessary. Okay, what happened last year? What were some of the pains of last year? Maybe don't plug it into this circuit yet, or wait for a couple more months, or whatever those analogies can relate to help people with those pains, and whatever that pain may be. You'll have more knowledge on that part than I do, but
we all have a lot of common pain, disguised in different scenarios, but a lot of it, and underneath it all, it's the same. We don't feel loved. We don't feel worthwhile. We don't feel worthy. A lot of really common thoughts.
Absolutely. So what is the next step? Okay, let's say I become a client of yours. I know I have this pain. I haven't quite identified, but I know it has something to do with ABC, kind of narrowed it down a little bit, but not pinpointed. Then I come to you and say, help me.
Yeah. Oh, Kenny, you're a great interviewer. These are great questions. So what happens when we have all of that pain or that confusion, I would say, and a trauma or a circumstance, we just bury all that emotion because we don't know how to process it. We disconnect from our heart. But the tricky part is the mind is not okay, that there is all of this unresolved stuff inside of us because our mind is a problem-solving machine. And so the mind will take all of those emotions and take the best assessment of the situation that it can, and then it wants to make a decision about it. And the challenge is many times those decisions are inaccurate. The mind cannot always see the full situation. It's doing the best that it can. But children often think the world revolves around them. It's hard for them to differentiate themselves from the world. So for instance, when I was young, my parents got divorced. And one of the decisions I made, because I didn't know how to process all that information, I thought maybe it was my fault that I hadn't been a good enough daughter. So you can see that that's an incorrect belief for sure. But as a 10-year-old, you don't really know any different. And so that's one of the beliefs I made because of that trauma. So the next step in the healing is to look at that. What did that trauma in your life or those difficulties make you believe about yourself or your life? And let's make sure that they are true. And if not, we'll correct them and get them grounded back into truth.
Like that. So you start by processing through all the subcategories or the sub scenarios. Okay, let's put them in the true folder or the non-true folder or whatever, and then you start kind of narrowing it down. And then I could be wrong, but I'm guessing the next step would be, okay, let's now go through the true folder and figure out how to categorize those better and process those, and then we'll get to the next folder. Does that sound about right? Or
yeah, that's good. That's good. And the other thing that happens, which is really fascinating to me, but in the moment when we make those decisions, a lot of times in order to live that way and believe that thought, we have to give up some part of ourself. For instance, if I make the decision, I cannot trust people. So something happens that's traumatic in my life and I say, gosh, I'm never going to trust people again. I can't trust people. Then I actually separate from my gift of being able to trust. And because that's a natural part of who I am, I was born with that ability to trust. But in that judgment, I no longer think that's a good gift. And so I get rid of it. And it's just like somebody that learns to play the piano, and then all of a sudden they move to another state and they don't have a piano and they never use that gift again. It doesn't mean they don't still have access to that gift, but they no longer use it. They separate themselves from that ability. And so we also take time to figure out what they gave up in order to believe those thoughts. What are you missing? Are you missing your truth? Are you missing your self-confidence? Did you give up your ability to love yourself or love others? And it's really beautiful to watch once people find those missing parts of themselves and reintegrate them. Then they have strength and they have the ability to really make incredible changes in their life. So maybe all their life they thought they weren't good enough, and now they know the truth, that they are good enough, and they receive that part of themselves back. Now there is a wholeness there that they can live from, that can make powerful changes.
I love that. And I'd like to add to, sometimes you have to give up things, is the misinformation, like you were saying. You may have this experience, and as humans, it's been my experience that we automatically can blow things out of proportion.
Yes.
So like you said, the people thing, okay, this person hurt me for whatever reason. They stole money from me, they broke my heart, they whatever. And then all of a sudden, everybody in the world is a bad guy.
Right.
Mind. So I think part of that giving up is giving up that wrong information, like you were talking about. Say, okay, no, not everybody.
Right.
Because of this one or two circumstances or scenarios, but these guys over here are really good guys, and these guys love you like crazy and stuff. So once you free up some of that space, like I've got an SD card, like if I take a file off of obsolete information, and that gives me room for something that's going to be more helpful in my life.
Yes.
Right?
Woo-hoo! Yes, that's it. Exactly. Yeah. And it's crazy because when we're holding on to those false beliefs or those negative beliefs, when I was believing in my life I couldn't trust people, then what I attracted and actually what I was looking for in my life were people that I couldn't trust. And so that happened again and again and again. You know, I kept doing business with people I couldn't or shouldn't have trusted, and getting into friendships or relationships where I couldn't trust people. And the horrible thing is we would rather be right about a wrong belief than be wrong. So I was looking for that in my life. I was looking for situations of people I couldn't trust. And so once we can correct that thought and get grounded in the truth, now I am free to find those people who are trustworthy. I'm free to build relationships on trust. And so it's powerful to bring that truth in, because that's what we will attract into our lives.
I love how you said that, because I was just about to ask, how do you break that cycle if you're surrounded by people that feel the same way, you know, or whatever it is. You'll never make it. Oh, everybody's against us. We got to stick together.
Yeah. And I think you're right, Kenny. Sometimes we do have to give up some things in our life to make those big steps forward and make those changes. It might mean letting go of friendships. It might mean stepping out of a job that's a bad environment for us, you know, but ultimately we have to choose what it is we want. But also many times when we make those changes, people will rise with us. So if I heal and I'm going to start expecting people to be trustworthy, then they're going to show up differently for me than if I expect them to not be trustworthy, if that makes sense. You know, so there's a lot that you can do, even just influencing others by what you expect of them and how you perceive life to be in that relationship.
I love that. And like you said, you just improving yourselves. You know, improving yourself will have that positive influence on those around you. You know, even if you don't go out and publicly make it known and stuff, but people will see it in your daily actions, your confidence, the way you carry yourself.
Yeah.
And I think, like you were saying, that'll come full circle. You'll find more of those people that are wanting to improve themselves, and then they'll just keep doing this and this and this.
Yes, exactly.
So,
yeah.
so what got you started in this, or what helped you when you realized that you needed to connect? You know, and now you're the teacher. How were you as a student? You know, and making that transition to say, hey, I want to help others.
Yeah. Well, I had a lot of trauma in my childhood, and some difficult things that really left me broken. And I struggled with depression for 20 years. It started when I was about 14, and I felt healed of it at about 34. And so it was dealing with depression for a long time. And for me, I know traditional counseling is helpful for a lot of people, but somehow talking about my problems for an hour wasn't helping me. I would often leave more upset than when I went. And I'm very sensitive to medication. And so I know a lot of people that are helped greatly by medicine out there, but I knew that wasn't going to be my solution. And so I just had to start finding ways. I literally hit my breaking point when I was 34 and just said, I can't live this way anymore. I can't face this depression. I can't deal with this trauma. I need help. And so at that point, I started searching for some holistic options and found several things that helped me. And to be honest, it was hard in the beginning. You know, it felt like some days I didn't even feel like I was taking a baby step. I just felt like one little toe might have gone forward an inch. You know, it wasn't a quick fix, I'll say that. But I started on that healing journey, and really piece by piece, I started unraveling the trauma and the challenges of my life. And the more I tasted that healing and wholeness, the more I just wanted to help others find that joy in their life too. So I've walked the walk, or whatever that phrase is. I found it by walking that hard path myself, but I love to let people know it is possible, really, to find that daily lasting joy.
Awesome. And that brings up a couple more things I want to cover. How do you help people, or what would you recommend to people? Because I know there's a lot of people, and I'm sure, and this is not to underplay it or to downplay it at all or any means, but how do you help people, or what would you recommend to people that say, no one understands what I'm going through, I don't even know where to start, I don't even know where to begin, how to start looking, I don't even know who to talk to? What would you recommend for people in that frame of mind?
Well, a couple of things. Kenny, I don't know if I can talk about spiritual things on here, can I?
So yeah, we're not specific, but spiritual, definitely.
Okay. So this is a non-denominational comment, but it's a Christian comment. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. If you are Christian and you believe in the atonement of Christ, what that atonement accomplished was that he not just suffered for our sins, but he also took on all of the pain and the sorrow and sadness that we would feel. And so I understand those comments exactly, because there are many days that I had those same thoughts. Nobody really understands me. Nobody really understands what I'm going through. And to some degree, you're right. There's nobody that has exactly had the same experience as you, or suffered the same trauma as you, or deals with, your same personality type or issues. But I would have to say the Savior is the one that does, the one person who understands it all. So for me, I did turn to the Savior a lot for that compassion and that empathy that helped. But I think also it's so comforting to have a real tangible physical person here listening to you, a shoulder to cry on, someone to talk to. So I think there are many therapists and counselors trained to help you no matter what your situation. So for me, I certainly don't understand all of the complexities of my client's life or all that they're going through. But as clients come in to work with me, what I offer them is my heart and my compassion. And in my heart, there's no judgment. There's, in my office, there's no criticism. And I've had people come in and tell me all sorts of very difficult things, whether they're the ones causing the pain for others or whether they're on the receiving end. And all people are loved. And I have compassion for any suffering, no matter what side of the circumstance you're on. So just know that there are people out there that will love you no matter what you're going through, and that they will do their very best to really understand you. And there's so many tools that we have that can help you, that I hope people always have hope. There's always hope for healing.
Thank you. I totally agree. It could be as simple, like you said, as just a shoulder to cry on is all you may need at the moment, or to start to help you in that journey of healing and recovery. So thank you so much for sharing that. if we can, we're going to twist and go a little more personal, if that's okay.
Sure. I'm an open book.
Where do you go when you're needing a shoulder to cry on? You know, as someone that, you know, because there's lots of people that do things for a living, you know, do the same thing, but sometimes even they need help.
For sure. I definitely need help. And, you know, for me, with my track record of 20 plus years of depression, even though that depression is gone on a consistent basis, I would say I'm very aware that it's always a possibility in my life, you know. And so for me, it's like if you had a car, you could either wait until the engine breaks down, or you could go get an oil change every 3 months and kind of maintain it and help it, you know, and support the functioning of your car with clean oil and clean fuel. And so for myself, that is the route that I have chosen. So I would say maybe every 6 weeks, I have someone work on me, and different months and different seasons, I need different things. Sometimes I want someone who does cranial sacral work. Sometimes I want somebody that does angel messages. Sometimes I want a Reiki session. Sometimes I want a foot zoning session. Sometimes I just go to the chiropractor and have him adjust everything for me, you know. But I think always I'm mindful of myself in that I'm also very careful about the influences in my life. I'm too tenderhearted to watch the news or a really scary show or be in a really, I don't know, negative environment. So I think I maintain my mental health in that way as well. I know what my boundaries are for me personally, and other people would think I'm a wimp, I'm sure. Like I can't handle a scary movie, but I really can't. It's not good for me. So I honor that in myself.
No, I'm right there. I don't like the too scary of movies. I'm not a huge scary movie person myself. You know, and that's something else that I've learned and stuff. And it's, you know, at times it's been a struggle and stuff, but I've learned, and it's helped me to grow actually. You know, realizing that it's okay not to know everything or to need help, you know.
Yeah.
I've realized that even my mentors have mentors.
For sure.
You know the big names, the Tony Robbins, the Ed Milet's, the Grant Cardones, the whoever. They all have mentors as well, you know. So it's really helped me to be okay with that, to grow and to kind of let that go and not hold me back anymore. So I were able to bring that up and tie that in. So thank you. And then another thing I wanted to ask, you know, as an entrepreneur, you know, with your experience, how has it been with your family? You know, being the entrepreneur, especially you know, as you're helping your kids reconnect with their hearts, you know, do they get parent deaf from like, oh mom, I've heard this 1,000 times, or here we go again? You know, what's it been like with them? How has that experience, you know, affected them, affected you, helped your path of being a mom and an entrepreneur as well?
Yeah, that's a great and very complicated question, but I'll try to answer it.
And please.
I think for sure, no one is a prophet in their own land. So my kids would, for a large extent, kind of roll their eyes at what I do, you know, but at the same time, I can see the influence of maybe my healing journey in their life, meaning there were a lot of things I was too afraid to do, too afraid to try, broken and depressed. And that has been healed. And because of that, I've been able to speak more positively to them, tell them to believe in themselves, tell them to go for their dreams, tell them to if they want it, you make it happen. And they really have. They're really incredible kids. So I think they've, leapfrogged over me in that area of confidence and risks that they're willing to take. We've had actually 3 family members, myself included, but 2 other family members as well, incorporate a business this month. And
Awesome.
so, I think they've learned that it's okay to take risks, and it's okay to believe in a dream and go for it. And it might fail, but it might succeed. And they're passionate enough about things to try. What I hope and what I believe my kids have learned from me is the importance of connecting to their heart and really listening to those inner voices of truth, and the importance of their heart to help to guide them in their crazy lives. So hopefully they got that much.
I believe they will.
I just finished writing a book. They'll probably never read it. It's one of those things, but hopefully they got something else.
Oh yeah, isn't it funny how life circles like that? You'll have the stagers like, oh, that's just my mom's book, and then 15, 20 years later, like, holy cow, Mom, I didn't know you wrote this.
Yeah.
Why didn't I listen to you 20 years ago?
I'm still waiting for that day. I'm holding out for that day. It hasn't come yet.
Knock on wood, right?
Yeah.
And then you mentioned something that hit home, because it struck me quite a bit over the last few years, is, the depression you went through, and then being able to help your kids to hopefully recognize and not go through as much of that, and that hit home with me because, there's so many times, I'm a religious man myself. There's so many times I'm praying, I'm like, why am I going through this? Why? What do I need to learn? What is happening? What have I done wrong, kind of thing,
Yeah.
And with my own kids, 15 years later, I'm like, that's why, right there. I needed that 10, 15 years ago to help my kid with this today.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
So many times we don't understand and recognize, why things are happening, because we may not see it for years,
yeah,
or at all. We may do something that we think is just normal, but the person at the grocery store tells their kids about it, and 15 years later, because of that, they're a lot better off, or whatever. So it's hard to keep in mind, but it's something I've tried to keep in mind all the time. Like, okay, there's a reason that I'm going through this. I don't know what right now. I never know what. But there's a reason why I'm going through this. And that has helped me so much, to have patience, to try and figure it out. Not that I always figure it out, but okay, maybe this is why. Okay, nope, I need to look at this more, kind of do a self-analysis. Am I doing this wrong? Where am I at on this category in my life? And in that process, it also helps me, grow even more.
For sure.
I love that you brought that up and mentioned that with your kids.
That's great wisdom. And actually, if I could share one thing, this was a message I got one day that was so powerful to me, because I had a lot of regrets. Why couldn't I have been healed when I was raising my kids? I just felt so bad looking back that there were a lot of things I didn't do well, and yet I was still doing the best that I could. But some days my best just wasn't even that great. And so there was a lot of pain looking back. But one day I got a message in my little morning meditation that said, regret keeps us trapped in the past, missing the miracles of the present. I thought, you're right. Every time I'm focused on the past, I am not even seeing what's right here ahead in front of me that's beautiful and wonderful. And And so there's a little thought to help you let regret go. It's not worth it.
I love that, and it makes me think of another quote, and I'm going to butcher it because I don't remember it right off, but something to the effect of um, believing believing weighs ounces, or making a decision weighs ounces. Regret weighs tons, or something to that effect. I'm going
Yeah.
to have to go look it up now, but something to that effect. The regret of not doing A, B, or C.
Yeah.
Far more than if you just took that chance, or so.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. And we're all here to learn. That's what we're here for. I believe we're here to learn, and sometimes we learn the hard way. We make choices that really don't make us happy in the end, but we learn. And so I think if we could all forgive ourselves a whole lot more, and love ourselves more, accept what has happened in our life, we would come to a much greater point of peace, I believe.
I believe that too. That brings me to another question on the kind of the opposite end of the coin, if you will. Um, how do we help it? So we forgive ourselves, we believe in ourselves, but not to the point where we become like cocky and like, what's some things that we can do to make sure we don't get to that point? We want, of course, poor belief in ourselves, but not, I can do anything, look at me.
Yeah, that's a common question, because I talk a lot about loving yourself, and people often say, well, I don't want to be that kind of person. I don't want to be narcissistic. I don't want to be prideful. I don't want to be this. I don't want to be that. But if you think about, one of the great commandments is first to love God with all your heart, but then to love your neighbor as yourself. And it could have ended at just, and to love your neighbor. But when it's saying love your neighbor as yourself, to me, it's like, okay, well, if I don't love myself very much, then I guess I don't really have to love my neighbor either, right? There's some implied things within that. And I feel like it is important to love ourselves, because when we learn to love ourselves, then we truly know how to love other people. And that's without condition. And the point that you're talking about, that where it becomes a danger, is when that love for self is mixed with pride. And that's all it is, because pride is all about comparison. Pride always wants to know, are you better than, or are you worse than the next guy? But when we can keep pride out of it and simply love ourselves, then we are grounded in truth. And there's just a purity in that, and such a peace in that. And so for me, I can tell you all my lists of strengths and all my lists of weaknesses, and my blood pressure wouldn't go up either way. I've accepted the good things about me, and I've accepted the things I still need to work on about me. And I'm okay with both sides of that coin in myself. So when I can say, I'm good at creating, that's just a truth. There's no pride in that. I'm stating a fact. When I say I'm not great in the kitchen, that's also a truth. And I'm not going to feel bad about that either, But when I say, well, I am better at creating than my neighbor, or, well, so-and-so up the street is way better than me in the kitchen, now you can see we've mixed into that pride and that comparison, and there's a distortion in that that's not healthy for us. So just love yourself in truth. Love yourself without pride. Just love yourself, because you're a child of God and you deserve to be loved. You are worthy of love. And that's the bottom line. That's the truth.
I love that just those um, in a sense, a reality check, in a loving kind of reality check. And I think that'll also eliminate the I can do no wrong, or it's never my fault kind of thing.
Well, because both of those statements aren't true, right?
Correct. When you're honest about loving yourself and what you're good at and not good at, then those things will eliminate themselves. So
Right.
thank you. And then as you love your neighbor and stuff, regardless of faults of their own, because you've got your own faults, so you can't. But then you want to help them become better. Then essentially they want to help you become better, and it does this effect again, and it ripple effect as well. Awesome. And one last question: where can people get a hold of you if they wanted to connect with you more, learn more about what you do?
Great, thank you. So my website is theheartwhisperer.com. And if you go to the Heart Whisperer, you'll find all of my classes, my online classes, my retreats. I have some mentoring groups. My book isn't out yet. Hopefully that'll be next year, but that's on it. That's in process. My retreats are called Brave Hearts, and they're to help people really heal relationships, heal their hearts. And those are powerful. They're actually a healing retreat. You're not just going to come and learn things. You're going to actually walk that path of healing over the course of 3 days. So those are powerful events. But I also, as I said earlier, I'm an owner at the Wholeness Network. And so one of the reasons that was created was to provide some free or very affordable resources for people to help them with their mental health, their physical health, emotional health, and spiritual health. And so you can go to thewholenessnetwork.com and for $4.99 a month, subscribe to our library that is chock full of resources. And again, those are many of the things that help me find my way out of depression. So I hope it helps others as well.
Awesome. I love that. And I think that would be a great resource for people who are trying to get help and whatnot. So, and we'll drop those links in the comments as well with the video. So again, Robin, thank you so much for being here. And thank you for taking the time to share your experience and knowledge. And everyone, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for taking the time to listen in and whatnot. And please reach out if you need help with anything. And please let us know how we can help you dread no Mondays.